Hi, I'm Brittany, and today I want to talk about the planet Saturn. So the planet Saturn in your natal chart, this is not your sun sign, okay? So this is not based on whether you're an Aries, a Taurus, whatever. Saturn takes about 30 years or 29 years to complete its cycle, spending about 3 to 4 years in each sign. And so you have your birthday every year. You only have your Saturn birthday, which is called your Saturn return, about every 30 years. So this is a lot of a slower moving planet. Um, yeah, but I feel that it's very important in understanding how to overcome negative qualities in yourself and become a better person. And yeah, Saturn is kind of one of the more negative planets, okay? I'm not trying to be negative here. It's just what it is. It's kind of a downer planet. I feel like Saturn in each of the signs has a tendency to bring out the more negative qualities of that sign, and it's really important for you to work on becoming the positive qualities of the sign that your Saturn is in. That's sort of my perspective on it. Also, a lot of people think that Saturn is the planet of karma. If you believe in karma, it's sort of what we're here to work on to release our karma and be free from it. And also, very important, Saturn's house position. So you'll only know Saturn's house position if you know the time that you're born and you do your birth chart, and Saturn will fall in one of your 12 houses, okay? And whichever house Saturn is in shows a focus where you will need to work on the areas of that house. And yeah, could be removing karma from that house. Anyways, okay, I'm just going to do a quick little overview on what Saturn might mean in each sign and each house. And hopefully someday do a better video of each placement on its own. Okay, so Saturn and Aries. With Saturn and Aries, um, the life force energy is restricted. You feel a little bit held back, like you can't express your true drive and energy. Like maybe you lack confidence, maybe you don't feel like you have a right to be assertive, and you need to consciously work on developing Aries qualities, which is confidence and strength and just believing in yourself and believing that you're good enough to ask for the things you want and be assertive and aggressive and all those Aries qualities. Also, I feel like you could be pretty selfish with Saturn and Aries, and you're learning how to overcome a deep selfishness on the inside to become better. I think Saturn and Aries could be a more difficult place for Saturn because it's exalted in Libra. A planet exalted means that it expresses itself well through that sign, possibly like the best out of any of the signs. So, anyways, we'll get to Saturn and Libra. Okay, Saturn and Taurus. There is a focus on money and material wealth. Like if you believe in past lives, you believe in karma. Maybe in a past life you've held on to too much material wealth and maybe not been very giving and very generous, been stingy, maybe too focused, or in this life, you're too focused on keeping everything to yourself, being very possessive and holding on to everything very tightly. What was the quote that I read? And I just read a quote in one of my books about Saturn and Taurus, and it said that you cannot lose what you don't hold on to. So pretty much Saturn and Taurus has such a fear of losing everything that it holds on to everything very tightly. But the lesson is to let go of that death grip that Taurus has and be free. Also, I think with Saturn and Taurus, maybe Taurus also rules the throat. Maybe there's a lesson in speaking up and speaking one's truth. Maybe there would be like a latent gift in some type of musical art or something with Saturn and Taurus. Okay, Saturn and Gemini. Saturn and Gemini needs to learn to not think so negatively and have many negative scenarios in their head, and it's really about developing the positive qualities of the mind. I think Saturn and Gemini can be a little bit too into their own ideas, and maybe need to learn to be a little bit more open-minded too. Also, I've read about Saturn and Gemini. You know, the lungs could be affected, so be best not to smoke or yeah. Okay. So Saturn and Cancer. Saturn and Cancer is a emotional block. It's you're very protective of yourself, and you don't easily show yourself to anybody for fear of being vulnerable, fear of getting hurt. And Saturn and Cancer really does not want to be hurt, and they withhold their true self from people out of this fear. Maybe something happened in the early childhood or in past lives that really emotionally wounded the child, and now they have this fear of opening up to other people, which needs to be overcome. But of course, once it is overcome, they're probably great healers emotionally. And so yeah, that's Saturn and Cancer. Saturn and Leo is all about learning to have the correct use of the will, right? The solar plexus, the inner fire that we all have. Saturn and Leo is really about learning to love yourself and learning to be more of the positive qualities of Leo and not the negative qualities, which would be maybe these people have a tendency to be a little bit more arrogant and ego-centered, but all of that would come from not having a sense of that inner personal power that comes from truly having strength. When you truly have strength, you don't need to be superior because you see the light in everybody too. Okay, Saturn and Leo. Saturn and Virgo, there's a huge attention to detail. Like, I feel like Saturn and Virgo would be actually quite good because you would be very able to focus on practical details of life. You'd probably like reading through forms of whatever boring stuff, like really into all of the details in work, like day-to-day work life, you would be able to successfully do. But also there could be too much of a focus on the details and the work and all of that stuff and miss maybe some of the other parts of life and be too critical. Saturn and Virgo needs to learn to have more self-love and more self-love for others too. Yeah. Okay. Saturn and Libra. So Saturn and Libra is what they say an exalted planet. And a planet exalted is supposed to be in its best place. So I think the lesson here with Saturn is it's the first sign that Saturn's in that's actually now relating to other people. So Aries to Virgo is in the zodiac is more of the self-related parts of life, whereas when we get Libra through Pisces, those last signs, that is when we start relating to other people. So Saturn in Libra is really learning how to feel connected to people. And how do you learn that? Well, maybe you feel very unconnected with people and you feel separate, and yeah, maybe you're too selfish and don't consider other people. But the greatest gift of Saturn in Libra is learning to cultivate better relationships with people, and there will be some key relationships in the lifetime that will teach them this. Okay, Saturn and Scorpio. Saturn is Scorpio. We are in Saturn and Scorpio right now, and it's difficult. And maybe that's just for me because I'm a Taurus and I have Moon and Mars in Leo, and all of that is square Saturn and Scorpio, right? But square is a negative aspect. It's tension, it's frustration, it's work. But Saturn and Scorpio is a very emotionally intense placement. You can either love very deeply or hate very deeply, you're either devil or angel, no in between. So negative qualities of Scorpio, maybe you're resentful, maybe you really hold on to all of your hurts and you never let them go, you never forgive anyone for anything, and what you're working towards is maybe being a healer, being able to take all of those negative feelings that you feel and transform them and help other people do the same thing. And you're probably very psychic also. Okay, Saturn and Sagittarius. So Saturn and Sagittarius is learning how to be a teacher, but learning how to be a loving teacher. So not an arrogant teacher who's very attached to their own teachings. So I think Saturn and Sagittarius is learning to become more open-minded and broader in their teachings. And oh god, I really look forward to Saturn going back into Sagittarius. Saturn has been Scorpio just for about this summer, and it's going back into Sagittarius, and it won't go back to Scorpio for another 30 years. Like, oh, thank God. I think Saturn in Sagittarius is a lot lighter than Saturn in Scorpio, but the lessons are very different, right? We're learning about how to be a loving teacher, and, maybe we're learning to take the time. Saturn is time and growth and patience. Maybe we're learning to take the time to actually learn something well enough to teach it, okay? Rather than just skimming the surface and never really learning something deeply. Okay, Saturn and Capricorn. So Saturn rules Capricorn. So this is a really strong placement. Your inner father, Saturn is your inner father, is probably quite strict with you, saying, do this, do that. If you don't do that, maybe you're not a good person, or you need to do this and that to be a successful person. Capricorn is always working towards some goal. Maybe in your head you always have to be working towards some goal, and that's not a bad thing. That's a really good thing to be able to work towards something like that. The negative side is maybe you are really egotistical and into having power for yourself. Like if a Capricorn, or if Saturn and Capricorn is really insecure, they'll want to, go to the top, but for the power that it can bring. And the lesson with Saturn and Capricorn is to learn to help other people find their own inner power as much as they feel they have themselves already, if that makes sense. So it's about overcoming like a selfishness and a power drive, right? And wanting to help people. But yeah, I think it's a karma placement too. If you see Saturn and Capricorn, like, that is, these people are really learning about the energy of Saturn and how it works. And it's strong, it's powerful, and it's probably a lot of lessons involved, and the house, for all, the house is very important where Saturn is. Okay, Saturn in Aquarius. These people are learning to be emotionally detached and sort of love everyone, all of humanity, from a detached point of view. But they could also end up being, on the more negative side of Aquarius, too attached. Or no, sorry, not too attached. Too detached. These people could be very emotionally cold towards people and mean and really dogmatic, stubborn, and not wanting to see anybody else's point of view but their own. But once they work through that, they are very open to people. They're very good at bringing groups together and really just kind people to everybody, because they understand we're all part of one universal consciousness and we're all one. Like, it's a very spiritual place, Saturn and Aquarius. Like, these people will learn the true nature of reality in this lifetime, probably. Okay, and finally, Saturn and Pisces. So Saturn and Pisces is what I have in my natal chart. So forgive me if I talk about it a little bit longer, because I probably will, because it's the only one that I really truly can understand, you know, because it's my own. I feel like we don't have as easy of a time understanding other people's placements unless we've truly experienced them for ourselves. Not that it's impossible, but it's harder. Anyway, Saturn in Pisces is, I think that it is difficult because Saturn is your inner parent, it's your inner father, your inner critic, and Pisces sometimes on the negative wants to just escape and not learn lessons and not achieve goals and just drift away, and it Pisces is so sensitive to the suffering of this world. Like, it's so easy for people with Saturn and Pisces to never achieve their goals or do anything because they're just dwelling in all of the suffering of this world, and there is a lot of it. And also, I feel like it's a very insecure position. You don't have the strength that Saturn needs to truly live. Like, something is always holding you back, like a fear that you're not good enough, or maybe too much of other people's emotions in your energy field. Something is holding you back, and you don't feel like you can fully be your true potential. And maybe you escape through alcohol or drugs or any other way of escaping. You escape because this world is just too difficult for you to bear, because Pisces is not always the best inner father to have if it's on the negative. But there is a way out. And I've read in my Saturn book, or one of them, that the only way out of Saturn in a water sign is through spiritual work. So people with Saturn and Pisces need to develop a spiritual understanding. And when I say spiritual, I don't mean some woo-woo thing. It doesn't have to be a crazy out there thing. It could just be they need to find healing time in music or by the ocean, or this is a very introspective, introverted place, and these people need to go within in order to find that Saturn strength to achieve goals in their life. Like, it's crucial that these people have some alone time, and if they have some alone time, develop a spiritual understanding, these people can do anything and learn anything very fast, because Pisces kind of learns things by osmosis, right? Like, it just sort of goes into you. So with Saturn and Pisces, the positive can be that you can really do anything that you want to do because you are so adaptable to anything. So whatever you think of, you can have it if you just find it within. Okay, and this video is already really long, so I'll talk about Saturn and the individual houses in another video, but I hope that that has helped you understand Saturn and the signs and what Saturn is a little bit more.